Hello.
Hello. How are you, Mary?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing
Well,
well.
welcome back,
Good.
Mary.
Thanks.
All right.
Good to
Very
be here.
festive. I like the
Oh,
festive.
yes, a little decoration to cheer things up in my QB when I'm in the office. So
Very good. All right. Well, how is the weather there?
here it's good. It's
Okay.
sunny. It's a little cooler today. Yesterday it was like 75 degrees or
Oh,
almost 80.
okay. Yeah.
It tends to fluctuate here, 20-degree increments. And
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's snowing right here, and we're supposed to have 74 degrees on Tuesday. So it's all good.
where are you?
I'm
Where
in
are you,
Bend,
Mark?
Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
still winter for you.
Yes, which I do
Yeah.
not mind at all.
Yeah. We have all the trees blooming and everything is spring is arriving.
Agreed. Yeah. There's a little bit, I think there's some things that are starting to bud, but not yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're gonna hit like 78, 80 degrees today here in the
Ooh.
Phoenix area. Oh man.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm ready for the heat.
Yeah, I hate that when there's no in between. You want that
Oh
nice
no.
spring.
I know. I think we're gonna be 95 next week.
Yeah.
That I'm definitely not ready for.
No,
Well,
not at all.
I just got my tickets for AIM, so I haven't bought my flight yet, but yeah, so I know that'll be happy. But May it'll be
It'll be toasty. It'll be
it's gonna be
toasty.
toasty. All right.
Bring
Well,
your bring your swimsuit. Hit the
yeah.
pool.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. Well, Gabe just says he's got a foggy camera lens, so
I love it.
he is here. But I think if you want to get started, Mike,
Yeah, let's get started. Thanks
yeah.
everybody for joining again. I think everyone's been to one of these in the past, but these are our twice a month weekly, or sorry, twice a month Q&A calls. They're not weekly, they're twice a month. And in each one, we cover either CRM, and in today's, we're going to be covering LinkedIn, some different tactics and strategies for LinkedIn outreach specifically. And so just thank you all for joining us. It'll be an open Q&A, so you'll have plenty of opportunity to ask questions. Just a little bit about Mark and I think right up front is always helpful. So we are co-founders of Kindred, which is a business development and really a relationship development firm. We help professional services firms develop relationships, particularly through sales strategy, process, CRM, and outreach programs. So that's what we're doing, and really glad that you all are here. So, Mark, I think we're gonna go around the room here and get everybody introduced, if that's good with you.
That's perfect. Yep. No, a
Cool.
great intro. Yeah, we want to make sure we spend as much time with possible as we were talking about in preparation for these meetings. We're always kind of like looking to refine them, and so yeah, we want to make sure that we're spending as much time as possible for Q&A. So yeah, let's hop into the intros and then we'll get in.
Yeah, so I'll go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves. Just let everybody know who you are, what firm you're with. If you want to tell everybody where you're calling in from, and then start thinking. You don't need to share this in your introduction, but be thinking about questions you have around LinkedIn outreach. Particularly, we were going to focus today on profile optimization. Like, how do you optimize a profile in that outreach process so that you're getting kind of the most opportunity to reach the right people and have them actually want to connect with you and receive communication from you and participate in building a relationship together. So, all no particular order other than squares on my screen. We've got Mary. You'll be up first, and then Christine.
Okay. I'm Mary Albright, and I'm with a senior marketing specialist at Hancock Askew out of Atlanta. We have now 6 offices throughout the Southeast, and we are in a big transition. We are combining and going to become Baker Tilly in May. So lots
So
happening going
it's a very
from,
big deal.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Thanks
So,
for being here,
yep.
Christine. And then Gabe, if you're able to chime in. I know you
Oh
don't
yeah,
have camera
I'm
today.
here. Just
Okay.
I have no idea. People have been telling me all morning that I have a fogged up lens, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure. Anyway, go ahead, Christine. Sorry.
I'm Christine Sinisi. I'm the marketing director at WIS. We are located in New Jersey and New York City. I sit in the New Jersey office. However, I will be remote soon. I'm getting married and moving to Pennsylvania, so it's a little colder and grayer there, which not looking forward to, but it, it'll be a good change. So
Congrats on getting married, though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very
I'm
cool.
excited.
Good. I would hope so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Real quick, where are you moving to in Pennsylvania? I grew up in Pittsburgh, just outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay. Clark Summit, so Northeast
Okay.
PA.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah, I have family that lives out in Wattsburg. It's about 20 minutes away from Erie. So my perception of Pennsylvania is country, but like the Clark Summit area is not a big change. It's suburban, so the suburbs of Scranton.
Okay.
So it was like a nice surprise because when you say
Good.
Pennsylvania, people perceive that as I perceive it as Pennsyltucky, I call it. So
Pennsylvania. Oh.
but I
Never
like
I
heard
it.
like
that
that.
before, but okay.
There's lots of good like trails and woods, and I love all that stuff. So I was born in the wrong place. I'm not the typical New Jerseyan. So, but yeah, that's where I'll be.
I like Pennsyltucky. I'm gonna keep that one. That one's a good one. I'm gonna file that one away. All right, Gabe.
Quickly, Director of Growth at CVM in the Washington, D.C., Bethesda area. However, I sit very close to Mike Jones in lovely Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and soon to be home of the AIM Summit. But before that, I was in the Atlanta area. So, Mary, I'm surprised I didn't meet you before. I was with Wyndham Brennan, and I have been following the development on your firm. So it's nice to see
Okay.
you that you're standing tall.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you all for being here. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm
Probably good.
yeah, as Mike alluded to a little earlier, I'm co-founder with Kindred, and Mike and I met a decade ago, and really just love building relationships over time. And I'm calling in from Bend, Oregon. So yeah, excited to be here, and I love learning more about the LinkedIn things of everything that we're doing. And I always have a chance to obviously learn as well from all the questions too, which is great. So yeah, excited.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're honing in today on like profile optimization, but if you just have any kind of question around LinkedIn or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, we'd love to just open that up now. So, does anyone have any particular burning questions? And if not, I have kind of a starter question that we can fire back at everyone. So, does anyone have anything off the top of their head?
No, but it does come to mind. Are we all looking for jobs?
I mean, that's a different kind of profile optimization, but that could be an interesting approach to how you take today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I just thought I would kind of just consider like within your firms, and probably my guess is that not all of you are necessarily front facing with business development. Maybe you're supporting it in the background. But within your firms, when you think about those who are front facing in business development, sales, networking, developing client relationships, how many of you would say that your firm, maybe rate your firm on a scale of like 1 to 10? How strong are the profiles of those people from a LinkedIn perspective?
Oh, bro.
Below
I,
I know,
five.
loaded question probably.
I wish you asked me when I was two firms ago. Very low now. I'd probably give it a 3.
Okay, 3.
Yeah, it's that bad.
Well,
Yeah.
better to start somewhere, right?
I would say ours is not that great either. I over the past 2 years have really this has kind of been a passion of mine to try to train and get people more get their profile, work on their personal brand and focusing on LinkedIn. So I've gone from to different offices, a couple different offices to do training for them. And but even with that and doing a whole training and giving them step-by-step instructions on what they should do, very, I'm sad to say the results are not as good as I was hoped.
How about you, Christine?
Yeah, I was gonna say four. Like I would like to think I've had some influence on getting people's profiles in a better place. But it's hard to get them to change anything, and I don't think they understand like what they need to do. So actually one of the partners reached out to me recently and asked if I could do like a bio writing workshop. Um, so yeah, we have a lot of room for improvement here.
Yeah, I don't know that any of those answers are outside of the norm. A lot of the firms we talk to, I think, are pretty similar in that regard. The profile is kind of, if it's even given any attention, it's usually not very strategic attention either.
Yeah.
We hear that a lot from a lot of firms where it's just kind of like, well, yeah, I filled it out, 8 years ago, haven't really touched it. Maybe every once in a while I update I mean, I don't even know if a lot of partners and associates and firms are even touching like their byline at the top.
Yeah.
So
One thing I do that, and again, I don't know how successful it is, but when I do the trainings, the first thing I tell everybody to do is Google themselves.
mm,
And then I say, okay, what came up? And of course, it's usually their LinkedIn profile. So
yep,
I kind of emphasize, people are looking for you and this is what's showing up. So you better make sure it's updated.
yeah. Yeah, there's another kind of data point that I've seen a lot with firms over the years, which is if you look at your website analytics and if you have individual pages for members of your firm, they're often one of the most visited
That's
pages
true.
on the website. So I think just in the same way you're giving them that data point, Mary, about Google, which I love that idea. Even just showing them like, hey, more people go to your individual bio pages than almost anywhere else on our website, if that obviously is true. Um, but if you have that data, it's a great proving ground for why your profile matters. Um, so if they're doing this on our website, once they find our website, guess what they're doing on Google, right? And that goes to your point, Mary,
Hmm.
around, a Google search and probably one of the first, you know, at least top 5 links for your name is probably going to be a LinkedIn result. Um, but even on LinkedIn, as you think about kind of the process by which someone is introduced to you or you introduce yourself to someone, the profile plays a really big part in that process in providing credibility, providing additional context. So, one of the things we found in our outreach programs is that um, it's a really key tool for getting a connection request accepted. It's not the only tool. I would argue that the number one tool that people or the number one signal people use when you ask for a connection with them is the shared connections that you already have. So that's a really key tool. But beyond that, it's, well, who are you? It'll show a small snippet on LinkedIn or in the email that's sent from LinkedIn to them, notifying them that somebody wants to connect with them. It'll show that byline. So your profile photo and your byline are two of the most, first engagement pieces of content on LinkedIn when you're asking for a connection request. They're also showing up in your posts. So if you are doing some kind of posting on a regular basis or, professionals in your firm are doing that, then if those are getting shared or commented on or liked and therefore showing up in the feeds of other people that you want to connect with, they're seeing again that byline in your profile photo. Those are fed from your profile. The byline is like probably one of the most strategic tools that you have in the LinkedIn toolbox. And that's an opportunity to really like showcase not only what you do, but who you do it for and the value you deliver for them. One of the things that we've seen a lot is that really high impact bylines don't actually talk a whole lot about your job title. They talk about who you want to connect with. So giving some idea of like what are you an expert at? And who are the types of people who should be connecting with you? So even thinking about your byline almost as like if you're thinking about like kind of the brand story formula, right? There's a hero who is your prospect or the client that you want to help. There's the guide who is you as the professional with the expertise, and there's a happy ending in that story. What's that, kind of resolution to their problems that they have? That byline can be a small segment of that whole story where you really focus on the hero being, who's that prospective client you're really trying to help, the expertise that you deliver, and the happy ending you achieve for them. So if that's like growth or stability or maybe it's averting risk. I think for a lot of accounting firms, that's probably more in line with where they're headed. But even in like advisory, right? A lot of times advisory practices are really trying to aim at growth for their clients, right? Or some kind of nuance to that, sustainable growth or something like that. So having that conversation up front around like what is my value that I provide to people as an individual with my profile? How can I best showcase that in my byline in a few words? I don't get a ton of words to put in there, but you do get a few. So, it's kind of silly, but I'll share my screen here and I'll show you what I've done on mine as just an example. So,
And while he's pulling that up, one of the questions that I have, just as he's just addressed a couple of those things, as I know each of you have kind of shared a little bit of a lower number, is there one of those things that maybe, again, I know Christine, partner came up and said, hey, what about a little bio write-up or workshop? Are there, is there one particular aspect that Mike has maybe already addressed that could help get that from a 3 to a 4 or from a 4 to a 5? So I just be kind of thinking a little bit about that too as you're watching and as you're looking at everything that Mike's sharing. So that's just something that came up.
yeah, so, and this is a little bit positioned for my other firm, Resound, but unlocking remarkable professional services brands for growth. So I'm aiming right at who am I best suited to help, and what is the aim for them that I'm trying to achieve. And then I do kind of put in some keywords here that allow people to know, okay, well, what kind of service can Mike deliver for me, right? Um, and then I did stick in there a little link. I don't know that actually gets a lot of traction on LinkedIn, but it's not going to actually link it. But you can put it in there, and maybe somebody who's interested will copy paste that. There's like little things to try. I
So
know lots of people like to throw emojis in there, try to get some attention. You could try that. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, there was a question, I think.
yeah, I had a question. When I'm doing the training, I always say there's three types of bylines you can do. Your keyword rich one,
Mhm.
your, you know, client focused one, like the first line you have up there. I like the idea of combining those two. I think that's
Yeah.
what you've done. So
Yep.
that's good. And then the other one is just put your job title.
Yep.
And I always get the question, it's true. When I go to oftentimes to look someone up, I do want to know what their job title is.
Mhm.
Oftentimes I'm not sure. And a lot of people just say, well, why not just put your job title up there and then provide all this other information in the about section or something?
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on that?
Well, just knowing all the places that byline shows up, where people are probably not super incentivized to click through and find out more. A job title doesn't get me excited. A job title
Yeah.
doesn't give me context about what I'm an expert at. It just says I hold a role within a certain organization, right? So a partner in your firm who puts partner in their byline is not giving any context to a prospect other than if I even know what partner means, I might assume you have ownership in the business, right?
Mhm.
It's also an industry term, so like a lot of your prospects probably don't even really understand what that means in the context of an accounting firm because they're not an accounting firm, right?
Right.
It means a lot internally. It means very little externally um, to most prospects and especially anyone who doesn't know you already. So why miss out on that opportunity to essentially say, this is who I am and what I can deliver for people? And especially if you're doing a lot of active outreach on LinkedIn, this is one of the first experiences anyone has with you. When you say, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn, and it's someone who's never met you, never talked with you, has no relationship to date, that's what they're going to key in on is, well, what shared connections do we have? And what does your byline say about you? And no context means I probably won't click through, right? It's the same idea as like an ad, right? If I don't have if the ad isn't interesting or I don't know what it means, I'm not clicking on it. People are not that curious for the most part. Um, they're curious if they read something and go, oh, that's interesting. I'd like to find out more, right? Now I'm going to click through to the rest of the bio and I'm going to look at the rest of the profile. So, and that's where the power of the rest of your profile comes in
Yeah, that's an
as you develop a
excellent That's an
relationship.
excellent point. That's, my response is always if someone wants to know is gone to your page to find your title, they can find it. They'll scroll down
Exactly.
and find it, but they won't scroll down to
Yeah.
find the rest. So
Yeah.
I think you worded it much more eloquently than I did, but
Yeah. And some of
great.
this is understanding like where in the relationship you're focusing your attention with that byline. So if you have someone who's not doing outreach and they're just servicing existing accounts,
Yeah.
then maybe that job title is a little bit more important because the interactions they're going to have are with clients who are like, well, where do you sit on the team and how should I approach you? And are you at, I mean, just things that people think about, right? That they don't realize they think about. One is, are you at my same hierarchy within your organization as I am in mine? Or are you below me or are you above me? Right? Within that kind of organizational hierarchy.
Mhm.
Um, but that only matters once you get to client service. They are now a paying client and they're looking at trying to understand the team and who they're working with. That doesn't happen when you're doing relationship development prior to the sale. People don't care as much about that. What they care about is, well, what do you deliver for people? How do you add value? And should I even be talking to you? Do I want to let you into my circle? Right. And so if you don't have clear, like these are the kinds of, this is the kind of expertise I deliver, right? And the value that I add to people in my network, if that's not clear from the byline, they're not going to sift through everything else and look for that. So um, you can get into a whole other tangent on keywords. Um, let's be really honest. I would fire back if someone in your firm is saying, "Oh, I got to have all the keywords in my byline or in my bio." I think there's some truth to that. That's fine. But if it's primarily because I think that for some reason people are searching for service providers like me on LinkedIn and therefore I want to show up, that's not happening, right?
Yep.
People are not surfing and searching LinkedIn for their next accountant, their next marketing agency, their next lawyer, right? But for the most part, they might go to their network and ask on LinkedIn who is someone that you would refer, but they're not going blindly and doing a search. Those keywords, when you talk about search, probably are most important if you are looking at finding a new job. Let's be really honest.
Mhm.
Um, or if you want to be sold to. Um, if there's a certain service or something you're looking for, those keywords are helpful for those people. But they're not, there's very few people looking for a service through LinkedIn, especially like professional services. That's not the primary means by which people find their next, accountant. Um, so the account page, if you go to your corporate page, your company page, that probably matters a little bit more for search and searchability on LinkedIn. But like you're probably not going to have a ton of people just sifting through LinkedIn results looking for accountants in my area to go reach out to. They're going to look for a company page. Um, so just little things like that. Obviously, you do have people looking for individuals in your firm from a name standpoint. I don't think you have to tell too many people like spell your name correctly, that kind of thing. But also just making it clear where you work, who you work for. Um, the brand is important because that's what they're keying off of. Location matters too for that. So if you're thinking about like, hey, in the sales process or as we get into client service and client engagement, A lot of times clients will be looking for your people from your firm on LinkedIn, looking them up, seeing who they are, finding out more information about them. Your profile is really important for that. So even just things like location can be helpful. Of like, am I finding the right Mike Jones? They might be keen off of location as like, how do I know if I've found the right person? So anyway,
We have about 4 minutes left, so if there's anything else in particular, and then I always like to kind of leave up with the takeaway or so. So
yeah, I've talked too much. Any other questions?
So about the location, I recently gave instruction to a couple of my partners they had their like home location, like Ramsey, New Jersey. So I told them to
Yeah.
change it to New York City metropolitan area
Yep.
to showcase like more of how big we are and not super narrow.
Yeah.
Was that good instruction and guidance?
So probably I would kind of key off of like if I mean, even if they're remote, what's the office they associate with, right?
Uh-huh.
So when people are thinking about that person, like I wouldn't advise someone to say, well, I live, in California, but our headquarters is in New York, so I'm going to put New York on my profile. I think that's very misleading. That's like too far of a range. Um, because there is some aspect to like, hey, it does matter where you spend most of your time. But
Okay.
to say like, hey, New York City, and I happen to live outside of New York City, but the main office that I associate with is in New York City. I think that's totally fine. And I do think there is like I like your approach of like, hey, we are a big brand. We can service lots of, big name clients who are looking at kind of that New York City aspect to the brand. I think that's okay as long as you're not stretching that to like they live in I don't know, Vermont.
Right.
And they never go to, it's like how often are they in New York
Yeah.
to be able
Yeah.
to like make that claim.
Okay.
Um,
That's
so
helpful. I know a
I pro
question you didn't get to it, but in the About Us section, so I know like you only see like 3 lines, right? So
Mhm.
those 3 lines are probably the most important in that
They're
space.
really important. Yeah.
Um, what do you recommend like focusing on there? Like similar to the byline, like what are the
I,
top things?
I think like the byline, get to the value you provide first. So you almost like you tell an inverted story. So, a typical like kind of standard story format is you introduce who you help, their problems, then what you do to help solve those problems, and then ultimately end with the benefit you create for them. I would invert that and I would talk about the benefit you create, and then who you help. So you kind of mix the parts around. And then the last thing I would talk about, and this is a generalization. I think there's maybe a time and place to do a different order, but the last thing I would talk about is all of your credentials and like the things that back up that you are an expert at what you do. Um, if you kind of think about like this from a order of importance, right? Like almost like if you're writing a journalistic article, you start with the hard hitting big issue, right? At the top, which is the problem and the solution that you provide to that problem for clients. Probably want to mention the industries or expertise if there's a specific service expertise or specific industry expertise, or if there's a handful, maybe give three. That just gives specificity. That is a keyword that people are going to key on is industry. That's a big one. Are you in my industry? Do you know my industry? Do you specialize in my industry? So making sure that's somewhere in those first 3 lines. And then you can get into all the like background and the details of expertise, certifications, keywords, services you provide. All that can be below that about section. Um, but I'd kind of treat it like, maybe the homepage of your website, right? If you're going to have a homepage for a personal website for a professional in your firm, what would you lead with? You'd lead with like what they're an expert at and how they deliver value for clients.
What about like the personal story stuff? So I was also taught that at some point, like tell your story in there. Is that valuable to
I,
like people to connect with you or
yes. So that's like a whole nother kind of layer to your profile is putting in things that show that you're a human being and not just like a work robot. Um, so things around like your personal history, your story. Do you give back? Are you involved in community, associations, organizations? Do you give back in your industry? Do you serve on any nonprofits, on boards? Do you coach your kids' soccer team? Like, give people a sense of you as a person, not just simply you as a professional. I think a lot of times the bios that professionals lean towards are like, I only talk about the things I do from a work standpoint and the credentials I have, which are really important, but they don't lead you to like, oh, this is a person and I want a relationship with them, right? So having those tidbits in there, I think is really critical, even down into your like, obviously you have like your job roles, but there's even a whole section on volunteering.
Mhm.
I would fill that out as much as you can, and give people a sense of like, how do I give beyond the job? If that's in there, right? If you have that experience at all, or if your professionals in your firm have that experience. I even, there was one professional we were working with, and he had coached his kids' soccer teams for a long time. And I said, throw that in your volunteering section. Like, is it gonna help you like show expertise? No, but it shows that you're a human being who has a family and that you care about them in some way, right? So,
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
And oh, sorry, go
oh,
ahead.
go
I was
ahead.
no,
just
go
gonna
ahead.
say I'm looking at yours about us now, and you have a little line in there at the end, so I like that.
Yeah, mine's pretty light at the
Yeah.
moment. I'll be honest, this probably needs a rewrite. So, um, it's probably not, I don't know, but I spent a lot of time on this one when I did do it. So, I did definitely emphasize like, here's some giving back things I've done that are very more pertinent to work and client relationships. And then, yeah, let you in on a few of my interests and passions. Um, it's interesting, and this obviously isn't necessarily directly to a LinkedIn profile, but this is the same bio I use when I like speak or do events and things. I actually had one event organizer thanked me afterwards, and they sent me a $50 Lego.com gift card because they had read this line, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." It's not
Yeah.
why I put it in there, but it's like, okay.
You
Um,
put the three kids in there to justify why you play with Legos, but that's a whole other thing.
no, they're fun. I love it.
I was just going to say quickly, I know we're running out of time. One thing I also tell people on the volunteer section and stuff to you don't have to only put current things to put
Mhm.
Mm,
past things
mhm.
because there might be a connection. Like I was a Girl Scout leader for 12 years. I don't do it anymore, but someone may see that and be a Girl Scout leader or have ties to Girl Scouts
Yeah.
and make a
Mhm.
connection, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised, like I think as you get much further into like potential client relationship, right? You're getting close to a decision from them. They're probably on your profile and picking it apart at some level, right? You'd be surprised, like they might actually click through and look through all of your volunteer experiences because they
okay.
are looking for that sense of connection making. I think that's a great point, Mary. Really good.
Well, and everything that we've been talking about, that was one of the points that I simply wanted to underline in all of this is that this is really about relationship. You're building a relationship with another human being, right? And so you want to make sure that you get to the points of what and how you want to connect with them. And also, as Mike is alluding to, and all of this, and everyone is alluding to, is just giving that opportunity to tell the story. Because as human beings, we are storytellers and we connect to story and we connect to those relatability elements. I mean, the fact that while I might not play soccer or whatever, but there's someone else that may have, and there's just a nice connection point that's like, oh, common ground, right? And that to me is, yeah, that's a beautiful piece. So um a couple, I know we're a little bit over. Gabe mentioned he had to hop to join another call. I just kind of wanted to mention something just from a housekeeping perspective. Mike and I have been talking a little bit about this, and so I don't know. I think this is, if you're okay, if I could just ask this question. Um, we were thinking we've been doing these for 30 minutes and we're open to like extending them to 45 and just kind of wanted to get your feedback on that because, we want to make sure that there's time to really dig in. In 30 minutes, we want to make sure that it's not too time intensive, but, we're just kind of wondering. And you guys have been here twice now, so, or at least more. Yeah, I think at least 2 or 3 times now. So I would just love to get your feedback on, would you like that? How does that sound to you? And, again, it's good for us to kind of get feedback from someone who's already been here.
Yeah. I, I think 45 would be good. I feel like we always just get warmed up and then I just start thinking of all my questions at 12:30. So I would encourage that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, sounds good.
Wait,
That's what we
I'm
were feeling as
pretty sure
well.
that's what's going to happen because we just
Yeah.
keep going over. It's
Yeah.
like, let's just own it. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
45-minute call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any other parting thoughts from anyone? Takeaways?
No, it's all been very helpful.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if there's something that comes up as you're thinking through this between now and our next call, even just like, hey, you talked about like how do you get the professionals in your firm to really think about their profiles? I'd love to hear what's going on. If there's something that's like, oh, this is working, or we're still getting this pushback. That's always just really interesting to know. So,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right. You
Bye.
too. All right. Awesome. Have a good month.
Bye.
All right. Bye now.